All right. So I've been asked to look at a virtual machine that a student created, and so that's what I'm doing. So I downloaded these files on Saturday. I'm going to extract them right now. There's that one, and we'll extract this one. Cool. All right, so now we have those extracted. Because this is already in VirtualBox and I have VirtualBox, I'm running everything from my USB M2 drive. So all you have to do is double click on that. I apologize for the sound. My microphone is here, the very nice one that doesn't allow too much static, but my control panel is at the office. So I'm using my workout gear for the microphone. Okay, so this is looking good. There is no install here, so that means this has been configured correctly. Pardon me, the hiccups. Which is good, so that's a good sign. I'm going to shrink this stuff down here. I do have the textbook here somewhere. There we are. And put it on that side, and we'll leave that on this side. Okay, so the problem with TinyCore, or the benefit of TinyCore, is that it runs only in RAM. And we say primarily runs in RAM because if you want to, you can have it do a mix of RAM and hard drive. But the default is just RAM only. So if we scroll down here, we can look at settings. Installation is completed. We already know you did that because that has changed. So that's good. We come down here, we want to look at the settings. So what we want to do is come over here, and I have 4 monitors, so I get a lot of input issues with VirtualBox for some reason. But that's okay, because we can come down here, we can do backup restore, and we can say included a backup. And we see that that doesn't quite look right. For some reason, this is being saved 3 times. So maybe there were several attempts here, and it's fine. It's not going to matter. I've seen this before in other students, so we will just press forward. All right, let's see what's next. Okay, we don't need to create a blank text file. We already know that this is working. So what we can do is we'll just go straight up, and we'll double check that this has an IP address. So we do IP add. Sorry, TinyCore is older. It's ifconfig. And we can see that we do have an IP address right there. So that tells us that something is working well. So let's move on to, so the virtual machine looks like it's been created and configured correctly so far. So let's look at, I forget which chapter it is, about using it as a DHCP. There's Windows, DHCP, and TinyCore. All right. Yes, so we should have a configuration that looks something like this. That's fine. Let's open up our GNS3 while we're here. It is, it's not that one. I don't care about that one. It is that one. It is that one. It will take just a second to start because I do have, I'm trying to put everything on one screen here so you can see everything I'm looking at. To make things easier, I might just relocate the book to another screen, and I will announce the section and stuff as it occurs, so that way we can be all on the same page. And you can look at the book on your second monitor, and I don't have to try to squeeze it all in here on one screen. But it will take a minute to start all this because I have a lot of functions running at the same time. So, capture, yep. That's doing good. Yeah, it will take a while. I haven't run GNS3 in here since June, I think. Oh, that wasn't so bad. Oh, okay. We can shrink that down because we really don't care. We'll move this across so we can see everything. There we go. We have that. I don't think that is that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to stop that, power off the machine. I am going to remove this, and then I'm going to add the tiny core that I was just playing with. All right, so we're going to go there, and is that the one I was playing with? Probably not. I'm going to hit delete. I'm going to hit new, and it'll search for all the tiny cores. We'll go TC-Red 1. We're not going to use a linked base. That works okay, but it ends up confusing students, so I tend to tell them not to use that. All right, so we want to do edit, and make sure every port is usable. Change the symbols. I don't remember if I said red or red square or red circle. It doesn't, cosmically speaking, matter. It's easier for humans to make the differential. The computer itself doesn't give a crap at all. So, all right. So we say OK. We're going to hit apply. OK. And now we can drop. There it is, TC-Red into the environment. We'll add a cable. Doesn't matter which one because it's a switch. It's an unmanaged switch. All right, we can close this out. No, stop that. There we go. We want to move this around. And now we can start this. We can make sure that it is running the way it's supposed to. All right, there it starts. Good. Well, again, we'll capture the input, mouse integration. And we'll open up the terminal, IPA, ifconfig, and we have an IP address running. So that means this is a pretty good, I don't know which student, I'm going to just use him, for lack of a better term at this moment. And this looks like it's pretty well configured. So let's check something out here. Let's go to, we did all that, we did all that, we did all that. Okay, so let's look at the settings for the Ethernet adapter. That's a good idea. So to look at those settings, we type in cat OPT Ethernet 0. I forget what SH stands for, but generally, I just look at those settings. So that looks like it's configured correctly, and we know it is because we've got an IP address the second it's up. The net mask looks correct. It's for /24. Broadcast is set up for 255, and the status is set to up. So this looks really good. All right. So let's look for the next one. And I am looking at in section phase 2. I'm on step 2.6. All right. Input mouse integration. Good. Okay. All right. So we're going to just set the mod 777 to OPT. And all we're doing here is setting the read, write, and delete settings here for this file. The file we just verified that it was there. So we're doing that. And what did I screw up? That's a .sh. All right. So we got that. That works. And now we want to make sure that it runs. And to run stuff in TinyCore, you do it old-fashioned Linux. And you don't do restart or start or any of that stuff. You just run the command. And so we'll do eth0.sh. And now that runs the command. When it's done, ifconfig, almost forgot again. And that's working. So life is good. All right, so let's go to the textbook. And now let's look at the DHCP configuration file. And before we do that, let's just see if it's running. So we're going to come over here, and we're just going to go, that's my dog, udhcpd etc udhcpd.config. And then we're going to see sudo netstat anv. Oh, I forgot to make this window bigger. I always forget to do that. And let's run the command again. And it says it is not working. So that means something is wrong. So what we should see here is a little thing here that says it's listening, but I got no such file or username, which is not correct. This tells me right here that something is not correct. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix that. All right, not a big deal. It happens all the time. So we're going to go back into the file, if I can get it to capture my mouse again. There we go. All right. So, oh no, that looks fine. Something's not quite right. All right, let's look at the configuration file. Because that looks, this is normal here because we're doing IPv4, not IPv6. So that's what that's about. No, this looks fine. Let's do sudo by, and students are like, how come I can't use nano or something? You can use whatever you want, but as a hacker, I can tell you that when you're attacking a system, Vi is installed, nano usually isn't. So I try to force all the students to use Vi, because installing software sets off alerts. Anyway, so start. 192.168.1.100, yep. And 192.168.1.200, yep. Interface Ether 0, yep. Option subnet, that looks correct. Option router, that looks correct. Option lease, 4320, that looks normal. 250, that looks fine. Option domain local, that looks perfectly fine. I don't see anything wrong with this. So we are going to just exit. We're not going to change anything. I'll just quit. All right. I don't see anything that's an issue right there. All right. So it could be that the permissions are not correct. Well, here, let's just try this. Let's start PC2, because I really don't see any issues going on here. Go to the console, and we'll do IP DHCP. It should do a D, because it always fails the first time, and it's working just fine. So there's nothing wrong with this configuration at all. It is weird that it's saving 3 times. That's a little odd. I'm not quite sure why that is, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything, because all it's saying is, hey, we saved this file, then we saved this file, then we saved this file. My guess is when you typed in the persistence, you tried this attempt 3 times and you didn't delete anything, that's not a problem. I don't think that's an issue. It would be an issue if you fat fingered something, but I think it works just fine. All right, so I've got no issues that I can see. Well, here, let's start another one. Let's start that one. And again, it should fail on the first time. That's because the first time it makes a call, nobody's going to be there to listen. Here, I'll show you. Start capture. So if we go to PC1, see if I can't move this here. There we go. So if we go to PC1, watch Wireshark as we do IP DHCP, and you'll see the first discover fail. There we go, and now it's working just fine. That's perfectly normal. That's because DHCP is at layer 3, and switches work at layer 2. And if the switch has not made its map yet of all the MAC addresses and which ports they're connected to, the first D generates that, and then the second D is what will give you a response. So that's all. It's not a big deal. I mean, I think you can have up to 5 Ds before it times out on you. And you can watch that on the thing out here. Discover, and then it says, hey, now I offer, because it doesn't know what's going on. So this is perfectly normal. On a normal network, it doesn't look this clean. You have nothing else going on in this network, so therefore it looks really clean, which is really a nice benefit of using DHCP, because if you run Wireshark on a existing network, you're going to get 10,000 packets a second. And whatever it is that you want to look at, you got to be a master at filtering so that way you can see. But here you can just run it and you can see the handshaking that happens. Offer, 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 offer. There we go. Discover, request, acknowledgement, and now we have the IP address. Hey, this is the IP address. So again, I don't see anything wrong. The only thing that I did where I didn't check, and I should have, was the permissions. I don't see how that would be an issue. So my guess, if I had to guess, because my GNS3 is run a little differently because it is running off of USB. is that maybe your original format, because if I can't run your file directly because it's not going to tie to the machine, so I have to import it, and maybe your original one did not have use any port, or maybe it was not set to um, generic driver. I can check that real quick. But I do not see any issues. I think you're doing everything correctly. Let me see if I can't find machine running here. That's it. That's it. Devices, network settings. It says generic driver. So the only thing I configure is that in GNS3 itself, when I go to the device, go to configure, network, and make sure it says use any configured VirtualBox adapter. But even if it's on generic, you shouldn't have to click this. It should work just fine. So well, let's see how that works. Here, we will disconnect that. We will say configure, turn network off. We'll apply that. And we already verified as a generic driver. That's fine. That works really well. And if we just repeat IP, it should still work just fine. Yeah, notice there's no D. There's no double D there because the first D was done a long time ago. So it already populated the table, the layer 2 table in the switch. So it still works. So I honestly don't know why your system isn't working. Like I said, the only thing I found that was weird is that backup and restore is done twice, or 3 times, I should say. And I don't know why that is. That doesn't seem to make any sense. But again, I don't think that's going to hurt anything because I don't see any obvious typos there. I mean, if I open this up again and I just did this, WQ, and then I set it the persistence, which I forget the commands. I always got to look them up. I bet you it'll switch to 4 times. So my guess is the CMOS are not set correctly. There's the command to see the. I don't remember what the old commands are. Give me a second. Oh, it says the LS do that. Alright, let's give it a try. C and C. LS -L. And we can see we're looking for the U comp. Oh, yep, that's the issue right there. You don't have write access to you don't have write access. So if we want to change this, use well, we're in Etsy, so we can look at that too. That should be RWRWR. So let's just change that right now. So sudo echo, oops, I'm tired too, so I have a lot of fat fingers here. etc udhcpd.conf, and we're going to say to output that statement. Oh, I'm really tired. There we go. To opt.filetool.lst. Okay, what did I fat finger this time? Because that's a folder. There we go. There, that worked. And then we do sudo echo opt eth0.sh opt list, and then we do sudo echo opt eth0.sh ampersand, which is a wild card, opt local.sh and file sh dash who is the issue? Oh, because we're still in Etsy. There we go. Oh my gosh, I'm really tired. I'm sorry. File tool sh dash issue. You probably see this, but I can't see it. File tool dot sh dash. I don't know why that's an issue. That looks perfectly fine to me. Okay. So let's do cd etsy ls-l. That didn't change. Interesting. Oh, because I skipped steps. Well, all right. So we're going to do sudo, oops, back up, sudo show root staff upkill boot local.sh. Then we're going to set the settings to sudo cmod 775 opt boot local.sh. And now if we go to cd opt ls-l, and we can see that we have this boot local, and we can the owner, the user, or the owner in the group can read, write, and delete, but yet the one person can't do it. So all others are not able to, and that's what we're looking for. And I just realized I spent all this time when I was looking at the wrong file in the first place. I'm really tired. I'm sorry. I don't see what the issue is. I bet you if we go back here, yeah, now it's there 4 times. So my guess is that whatever this file was before I overtyped it, there was some minor mistake. One of the biggest things that people make is when it comes to Linux, especially command line, is that they'll type first as in 1ST instead of LST. So that is a whole completely different thing to do LST instead of 1ST. And you can see that the L here matches the L there. They are so similar that unless you're really familiar with Linux, you really won't see the difference. So, but that's just guess at this point. Honestly, this is solid work. I don't know exactly why it didn't work for you, but you can tell that on my system, it's working just fine using your files and your settings for GNS3. The only thing I did different was I re-imported your um, virtual machine for TC-Red, because if I didn't do that, it would not have made the connection. You have to kind of do that otherwise whenever you transfer files to a different device. So you have to re-import them again. It's not a big deal. It takes, 2 seconds. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm sorry for the rambling and the roundabout way of troubleshooting this, but I honestly have not seen a mistake. So the only thing I can figure is something was written incorrectly in this version of settings, and when I retyped it, I typed it correctly. So that's all I got. Try it again at your end, and let's see what's going on. Oh, the other thing that could be is, yes, if this here was set, you got to make sure that's checked. But even if it's not, as long as this is set to generic driver and UDP tunnel, it should work anyway, even if that's not checked. So it's not a big deal. And anything else, I got to see what you got to run packet tracer on the lines to see what happens when Dora is doing it. And that'll reveal itself. Like, I've seen people where they didn't reset the IP addresses, and so they're all sharing, or the MAC addresses, they're all sharing the same MAC address. And that causes problems because nothing in the system knows where to go. It doesn't even leave the station. So I don't think that's the case here because you got BPCSs and they get their own MAC addresses. But it's always a possibility. But again, unless I look at the Wireshark packets, I honestly couldn't tell you if that's the case. So give that a try. If you have any more questions or issues, please let me know. I have a full day tomorrow, so I'd have to wait till evening again. But I will get to it as quickly as I can. Thanks, guys. I hope this was helpful. Bye. Now, how do I turn this off?